You ever been in a season where it feels like life's falling apart, like everything you worked for is slipping through your fingers, and no matter how hard you fight, nothing seems to go right? You start losing people, opportunities, maybe even the version of yourself you used to recognize. It feels like you're losing everything, but what if I told you that's exactly how elevation begins? See, when God's about to take you to a higher level, He doesn't always announce it with blessings. Sometimes He starts with breaking. He strips away what's no longer meant for you because He knows you can't step into your next chapter carrying the weight of your last one. What feels like chaos is often construction. What feels like loss is really positioning. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Every test, every tear, every sleepless night is molding you into someone ready to handle what's coming next. So don't mistake the shaking for failure. It's just the foundation shifting beneath your feet. You're being built for bigger. You're being stretched for purpose. You're being refined for power. Because sometimes God has to let everything fall apart just to show you what was really holding you together all along. When you start feeling pressure from every direction, like life's got its hands around your neck and it's getting harder to breathe, that's usually not a sign you're falling off. That's a sign you're getting refined. See, when God's getting ready to elevate you, He don't do it in quiet ways. He brings pressure, heavy pressure, the kind that exposes every weak spot, every soft part of your spirit that still needs strengthening. It's uncomfortable. It's confusing. You start questioning everything, your path, your purpose, even your faith, but that's all part of the process. Pressure before promotion. Think about how diamonds are made. They don't shine because they were left sitting in comfort. They shine because they went through unimaginable force, heat, darkness, and compression. Same thing with gold. It has to be melted before it can be purified. That's how you know when God's working on you. Everything feels like it's being taken apart, but really, He's rebuilding you stronger, cleaner, and sharper than before. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. When God wants to elevate you, He doesn't just hand you new blessings. He makes sure you can carry them. And the only way to build that strength is through the weight of challenges. You might lose people you thought would never leave, opportunities that felt perfect, or comfort zones that once kept you grounded. But if you pay attention, you'll notice the pressure is revealing who you really are. It's showing you the difference between what's temporary and what's eternal. It's showing you who's loyal, what matters, and what you've been depending on more than God. Sometimes the pressure will hit your finances. Other times, it'll hit your relationships, your peace of mind, your sense of direction. But every area under attack is an area God is about to promote you in. You just have to survive the stretch. When it feels like your back's against the wall, that's when your character gets built. Anybody can talk faith when life's smooth, but real growth happens when you're walking through fire and still saying, I trust you. Pressure reveals two types of people, those who break and those who break through. The difference isn't in what they go through, it's in how they respond. The one who breaks starts seeing the situation as the end. The one who breaks through understands it's just the beginning of something bigger. So instead of fighting the pressure, you learn to embrace it. You start to realize the very thing that's trying to break you might be the thing that builds your foundation. You ever notice how the greatest blessings usually come after the hardest seasons? That's not coincidence. That's divine order. Before God gives you more, He tests your capacity to handle it. Pressure is meant to destroy you. It's meant to expose your limits so He can expand them. Because if you can stay faithful in the dark, you're proving you can be trusted with the light. You're showing you can carry the weight of leadership, responsibility, and success without letting it crush your spirit. Every elevation requires endurance. The higher you go, the thinner the air gets. You can't breathe the same up there as you did down below. You can't move the same, think the same, or depend on the same people. That's why the pressure comes first, to strengthen your lungs, your mindset, your faith. If you got everything you asked for before the pressure prepared you, the blessings would break you instead of bless you. You might be in a season right now where everything feels unstable. The doors you thought would open are locked. The people you thought were solid turn shaky. Your plans keep falling apart, but don't mistake movement for loss. Pressure doesn't mean failure. It means transformation. You're not being buried. You're being planted. And the difference between the two is what happens next. One stays underground, the other rises and multiplies. So when that pressure hits, don't fold, don't run from it. Let it shape you, let it teach you discipline, patience, and resilience. Every great person you've ever admired went through a season of crushing before their rise. You just don't always see the behind the scenes part. That's where God does His best work, in the hidden seasons, the painful moments, the times you feel unseen and unappreciated. Because He's not just elevating your position, He's elevating your character. He's molding you into someone who can handle the weight of destiny. Pressure before promotion isn't easy. It's heavy, it's humbling, but when you come out on the other side, you realize every trial had a purpose. Every tear watered your growth, every loss built your focus, every setback was a setup for a stronger comeback. The pressure wasn't the end, it was the proof you were getting closer to your next level. When God starts elevating you, one of the first things He does is pull you away from what's familiar. You'll notice certain people start drifting out of your life, certain spaces stop feeling like home, and certain conversations don't hit the same anymore. It's not because you're better than anyone, it's because your spirit is shifting and your environment can't match your new frequency. Isolation isn't punishment, it's positioning. God removes distractions so you can hear his direction more clearly. It might look like loneliness on the surface, but it's really divine separation working behind the scenes. At first, that isolation feels heavy. You start wondering why people you love suddenly go quiet, why doors you depended on stop opening, why you no longer fit into circles that once embraced you. You might even take it personally, but what's really happening is growth. Elevation requires separation because not everyone is built to climb with you. Some people are attached to the version of you that's comfortable, predictable, and easy to access, but when God starts moving you toward purpose, he'll start pruning your relationships. He'll make sure the people who can't handle your next level don't have access to it. That isolation is where transformation begins. When you no longer have noise around you, you start hearing your own voice, you start recognizing your habits, your fears, your patterns, and your potential. You begin to understand what truly matters and what's just been taking up space. God isolates you so he can rebuild you from the inside out. In that silence, he reveals your next assignment. He gives you clarity you couldn't get while you were distracted by constant motion and company. The quiet becomes your classroom. You start to see that solitude isn't emptiness, it's alignment. Sometimes the isolation comes with loss. You might lose people you thought were permanent. You might lose recognition, attention, or validation. But what you're losing is what was limiting you. Not everyone who celebrated you was for you. Some were connected to your potential, not your purpose. When God separates you, he's protecting you from attachments that would drain you later. You might not see it now, but that distance is saving you from disappointments down the road. He's keeping you from wasting energy where it won't be reciprocated. When you're being elevated, your energy shifts and energy doesn't lie. People feel that change before you even announce it. Some will fall back because your growth makes them uncomfortable. Others will start acting differently because your new focus reminds them of their own stagnation. Don't chase what's walking away. When God's trying to change your circle, forcing connections will only slow your progress. The people meant for your next level will recognize your evolution and match your pace. You won't have to beg them to understand your vision. They'll already be building one of their own. Isolation also teaches you discipline. When you don't have anyone hyping you up or validating your work, you learn to move off faith, not applause. You stop needing to be seen to feel significant. That's where real strength is built. In the moments nobody's watching, when it's just you, your grind, and your God, that's when you realize that solitude isn't about being alone, it's about being grounded. You start relying less on approval and more on purpose. You find peace in stillness, and that peace becomes power. There's also a spiritual side to isolation that can't be ignored. When God's about to reveal something major, he pulls you into a place where your attention is undivided. It's like he's saying, come here, I need your focus. Because elevation isn't just about success, it's about spiritual maturity. You can't carry a higher calling with a distracted mind. You can't step into destiny with noise in your spirit. So he removes what's unnecessary until all that's left is you and him. That's where revelation happens. That's where your next move gets written. It's natural to feel frustration in that season. You might question why your circle shrank, why your energy feels different, or why you can't connect the same way you used to. But that's proof that you're changing. Growth will always make you outgrow something. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. God is separating you to strengthen you, isolating you to elevate you. He's stripping away what doesn't serve you so he can surround you with what sustains you. Eventually, you'll look back on that season of isolation and realize it was sacred. It was where your roots grew deep. It was where you learned to stand without support, believe without proof, and move without permission. It was where your faith stopped being theory and became reality. That's when you'll understand that isolation wasn't the absence of connection. It was the presence of preparation. God wasn't cutting you off. He was setting you apart for what comes next. When God starts elevating you, he doesn't just add new blessings to your life. He begins clearing out the old ones that can't hold what's coming next. That's what a spiritual detox is. It's when everything unnecessary, toxic, or outdated starts falling away, even if it's something you once prayed for. It's not rejection, it's redirection. God knows that sometimes the weight of what we've been holding on to can't fit into the future he's trying to give us. So he starts cleaning house. You might not understand it at first, but every loss, every ending, every unexpected shift is part of a divine cleansing process designed to make room for something greater. In a detox, your body gets rid of what's been poisoning it. The same thing happens in your spirit. God starts exposing the things that have been silently draining you. Relationships that keep you small, habits that steal your peace, mindsets that keep you stuck. At first, it doesn't feel like healing. It feels like chaos. You start losing interest in certain people, certain conversations, certain environments. What used to excite you now feels empty. That's not boredom, it's spiritual evolution. Your soul is rejecting what no longer aligns with your purpose. You're being pulled out of patterns that were comfortable but not constructive. This kind of cleansing doesn't happen gently. God doesn't whisper when he wants you to grow. He shakes things loose. He'll disrupt your plans to realign your path. He'll close doors that look perfect because he knows they become prisons. And while you're standing there wondering why things are falling apart, he's actually rebuilding the foundation beneath you. It's just hard to see because detox doesn't look divine while it's happening. It feels like loss. It feels like confusion, feels like being stripped bare. But that emptiness is sacred space. That's where renewal begins. When God removes something from your life, he's not trying to hurt you. He's trying to heal you. He's teaching you to stop depending on temporary things for permanent fulfillment. Maybe it's people who once made you feel validated. Maybe it's possessions that made you feel secure. Or maybe it's achievements that fed your ego. Whatever it is, he'll take it if it's standing between you and your purpose. That's what makes the detox hard. We don't like letting go of what's familiar, even when it's been poisoning our growth. But you can't pour new blessings into a full cup. Something has to be emptied before it can be filled again. During that detox season, your spirit starts craving peace more than attention, purpose more than validation, and truth more than comfort. You might find yourself saying no to things that used to excite you and yes to solitude, stillness, and simplicity. It's not that you're losing your fire, it's that you're refining it. God is detoxing your focus so you can see clearly again. He's teaching you how to move without being motivated by fear or pride. He's aligning your heart so that what you attract next matches who you've become, not who you used to be. One of the hardest parts about a spiritual detox is realizing how much of what you called normal was actually unhealthy. You start seeing how much energy you gave to things that didn't grow you, how often you settled just to feel accepted, how long you carried people who never carried you back. It's humbling. It forces you to face yourself. But that's where transformation really happens. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. And God can't elevate what you refuse to release. So he brings it all to the surface, not to shame you, but to free you. There's also a quiet beauty that comes with detox. Once the noise fades, you start hearing yourself again. You rediscover the power of your own voice. You start noticing peace where there used to be pressure. You feel lighter, not because life got easier, but because you stopped holding on to what was weighing you down. The same things that once hurt now serve as lessons. You start thanking God for the doors that closed, for the people who left, for the opportunities that slipped away. You realize that if they had stayed, they would have blocked your breakthrough. The detox prepares you for divine restoration. It empties your spirit so that when new blessings arrive, you have space to receive them fully. The love that's coming won't compete with pain from the past. The opportunities ahead won't be sabotaged by old insecurities. You'll move with clarity, with confidence, with calm. That's the reward of letting God clean your spirit. You go through the storm, you shed what's heavy, and you come out purified, wiser, lighter, and ready for what's next. A spiritual detox may feel like loss, but it's really the sound of your soul being set free. There comes a point in your growth where your vision starts to expand faster than your environment. You begin to see things differently. The places that once inspired you now feel too small. The conversations that used to excite you start sounding repetitive, and the routines that once kept you comfortable start feeling like cages. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. God is opening your eyes to something bigger, and that shift can feel strange because your surroundings haven't caught up yet. You're evolving internally, but your external world still looks the same. That tension you feel isn't frustration, it's confirmation that your spirit is moving ahead of your circumstances. When God plants a new vision inside you, it doesn't fit neatly into your current environment. That's why elevation often starts with discomfort. You start to outgrow spaces that can't contain your calling. You might feel restless, misunderstood, or even isolated, not because anything's wrong with you, but because you're being called to rise. People around you might not understand your hunger for more. They might label it as impatience, pride, or a change of attitude. But what they can't see is the expansion happening inside your soul. God is stretching your perspective so you can see beyond the limits of where you are. That expansion always happens before the manifestation. This is the season where the familiar stops feeling fulfilling. You can't stay where you were, but you're not yet where you're going. It's an in-between place, a spiritual waiting room. It tests your patience and your faith. You start craving deeper meaning, higher standards, and more purposeful movement. The music, the energy, the people that once matched your rhythm now feel out of sync. You're not better than them, you're just tuned differently now. Your frequency has changed, and not everyone can hear that new sound. You start seeing through things that once fooled you. The small talk, the temporary highs, the superficial wins, they don't satisfy you anymore because you've tasted vision. It's not an easy season to navigate because you feel torn between gratitude and growth. You're thankful for what's been, but you can't ignore the pull toward what's next. God is upgrading your mindset before he upgrades your life. He's teaching you how to think on a higher level so when the elevation comes, you can sustain it. Because if your mind doesn't match your new level, you'll sabotage the blessing before it has time to root. That's why he allows that internal tension to linger. It's not to frustrate you, it's to prepare you. He's teaching you how to see potential in places where others see limitation, how to move with vision even when resources are low, and how to keep faith even when evidence is missing. When your vision grows, you begin noticing patterns you ignored before. You realize not everyone wants growth, some people just want comfort. You see how easily distractions can disguise themselves as opportunities. You start guarding your time, your energy, and your peace like never before. That's not selfish, it's stewardship. You begin to protect what God is growing in you because not everyone will understand it. People might say you've changed, and they're right, you have. You're seeing from a higher altitude now, and when you rise, your view shifts. You see the bigger picture. You understand timing, purpose, and alignment in ways you didn't before. That's the difference between living in vision and living in comfort. This growth can be lonely. You might lose connections with people who once felt like home. They may not understand your new drive or your silence, but that's part of the process. Every level of elevation requires a new level of solitude. When your vision expands, you realize not everyone can come with you, not because they're bad, but because they're not assigned to your next chapter. Some relationships were only meant to last for the season you were in, not the season you're stepping into. That's why God allows distance to grow between you and certain people. It's not separation out of bitterness, it's separation out of necessity. You also start realizing that your environment shapes your energy. If the space around you stays small-minded, your ideas begin to shrink to fit it. That's why God starts stirring dissatisfaction within you. He knows you won't move until you're uncomfortable. He lets the old space feel tight, so you'll start looking toward new territory. You'll feel that restlessness in your spirit long before your reality shifts, but that's His way of giving you a head start. He's letting your vision grow ahead of time so you can lead with faith instead of fear, and that's the beauty of it. When your vision grows faster than your environment, it's proof that something divine is happening. You're being pulled forward by purpose, not pushed by pressure. You're being trained to see beyond what's visible, to believe beyond what's logical. Your world might not reflect your growth yet, but it will, because once your mind expands, life eventually follows. The space you're in now is just temporary. It's the cocoon before the wings. The disconnect you feel is just a signal that you're already ascending to the level God's been preparing for you all along. When God is elevating you, one of the most powerful tests He'll put you through is the test of faith in the dark. It's easy to believe when everything's going your way, when prayers are being answered, when doors open smoothly, and when blessings show up on schedule. But real faith, the kind that transforms you, the kind that carries you to your next level, isn't proven in the light. It's proven when nothing makes sense, when you can't see the outcome, and when you have to keep moving forward with no guarantee. That's the kind of faith that separates those who talk about belief from those who will live it. In this kind of season, God goes quiet. It feels like He stopped listening, like your prayers are hitting the ceiling and bouncing back. You start to wonder if you missed a sign or made a wrong turn somewhere. But what's really happening is deeper than that. God's silence isn't absence, it's training. He's teaching you how to trust His presence even when you can't feel it. He's developing spiritual maturity, the kind that doesn't depend on proof to keep walking. You learn to rely on faith, not feelings. That's where strength is built, when you keep believing even when the blessings haven't caught up yet. The dark seasons strip away everything superficial. They expose the parts of you that are still uncertain, the fears you've buried, and the doubts you never voiced. You start realizing that your faith was strong as long as life was predictable. But when things start falling apart, that's when you see what's really rooted in your heart. Faith in the dark means choosing to believe that God's still working, even when every visible sign says otherwise. It means trusting that the delay isn't denial, that the struggle isn't punishment, and that the silence isn't abandonment. It's about standing firm in the unseen. In those moments, you start learning that faith isn't just believing for things, it's believing through things. It's waking up every day, carrying pain, disappointment, or confusion, and still saying, I know God's got a plan. It's pushing through anxiety with prayer instead of panic. It's walking into uncertainty with peace instead of fear. That kind of faith can't be learned from comfort. It's born in the darkness. And once you've been through that kind of season, you never see life the same again. You stop being shaken by storms because you've learned that faith is your anchor. There's a reason why God tests you in silence. He's not trying to discourage you. He's trying to elevate you. When you can hold faith without evidence, you're proving you can carry purpose without validation. He's preparing you for responsibilities and blessings that require deep trust, because at higher levels, you won't always have reassurance. There will be moments when the pressure is intense and the path unclear, but your faith will have to lead you. God knows that if you can trust Him when you can't trace Him, you're ready for what comes next. It's in the dark that you also discover your spiritual eyesight. When physical vision fails, when you can't see progress or results, faith becomes your vision. You start to sense things spiritually before they happen physically. You begin to discern timing, alignment, and purpose through intuition, guided by God. That's when you realize that the dark isn't meant to blind you. It's meant to train your inner sight. God turns off the lights of your comfort so you can see through the eyes of your spirit. The dark becomes a classroom, not a curse. But it's not an easy classroom. Some nights you'll cry and question why things feel so heavy. You'll pray and feel like nothing's changing. You look around and see other people moving ahead while you're standing still. That's the hardest part of the test, when you're doing everything right but nothing's happening. Yet that's when your faith becomes pure. You stop serving God for results and start serving Him out of relationship. You stop chasing signs and start walking in trust. The silence becomes sacred because you realize He's still there, shaping your heart, refining your patience, building your endurance. Eventually, the light starts breaking through slowly. You see how everything you endured in the dark had a purpose. The people who left, the plans that failed, the doors that stayed shut, all of it was part of the setup. The darkness was where your roots grew deep enough to hold the weight of what's next. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You realize that without the dark season, you wouldn't have learned how to pray with power, move with faith, and stand without fear. You learn that elevation doesn't happen on mountaintops. It happens in valleys. Faith tested in the dark is faith that can survive anything. Once you've walked through the nights where all you had was belief, no outcome can shake you. You stop doubting whether God will come through. You just start wondering how He will. That's the strength that comes from being refined in silence. When you make it through those hidden battles, you come out unbreakable. The darkness didn't destroy your faith, it revealed it. When God is preparing to elevate you, He'll always challenge your comfort. He'll pull you out of the places that feel safe, the routines that feel familiar, and the patterns that keep you stable but stagnant. You'll start feeling a divine restlessness inside, like something is pushing you forward even though you're not sure where you're going. That's because purpose and comfort can't coexist for long. The moment you start choosing growth over ease, you begin stepping into the level God designed for you. It's not supposed to feel comfortable. Growth never does. Every great transformation starts with a little bit of discomfort. You might notice things around you start shifting. Opportunities you once counted on start closing. People you used to rely on become distant. Your plans start falling apart without warning. That's not coincidence. It's movement. God is disrupting your comfort zone so you won't settle for less than what you're called to. If He didn't make you uncomfortable, you'd stay where it's safe, where it's predictable, where you can control everything. But purpose requires faith, and faith only shows up when control disappears. God will shake the ground beneath you until you move toward where He's trying to take you. This process can feel like loss, but it's really redirection. You might lose your rhythm, your routine, even your sense of certainty. But that's what makes elevation so powerful. It strips away every illusion that you're the one in control. You start realizing that your comfort zones were never designed to grow you. They were designed to keep you dependent on what's temporary, so God disrupts them. He places you in situations that require prayer instead of planning, trust instead of timelines, and through that process, your faith becomes muscle. It grows stronger every time you have to move without a map. The hardest part about leaving your comfort zone is letting go of identity. You get used to being who you were, the version of yourself that people recognized, respected, or relied on. But when God calls you higher, that version of you can't come. You'll have to let go of old titles, old expectations, old narratives that no longer fit your growth. That's why some seasons feel like identity crisis. You're not who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming. You're in between, and that in between is uncomfortable. But that's where transformation happens. That's where faith starts breathing. Purpose doesn't develop in easy environments. Think about every person who ever reached greatness. None of them got there without pressure. They were all stretched, challenged, and tested beyond what felt manageable. That's what God does with you. He'll allow circumstances that test your patience, your endurance, your discipline, not to break you, but to prove what He's already placed inside you. You can't discover strength in peace. You discover it in resistance. Every challenge is a mirror showing you what you're truly capable of. Every time you step out of comfort, you step closer to destiny. The discomfort isn't punishment, it's preparation. God knows that what's coming next requires a different version of you. You can't handle new blessings with an old mindset. You can't step into new territory with limited thinking. So He trains you through trials that stretch your vision, expand your faith, and strengthen your spirit. You might feel like you're being tested, but really you're being upgraded. The same way a seed has to break before it grows, you have to break out of comfort before you bloom. When you start walking in purpose, you'll realize that growth is never convenient. It demands sacrifice. You'll have to give up instant gratification for long-term impact. You'll have to walk away from what's familiar to find what's fruitful. You'll have to trust God's timing even when it doesn't match your expectations. And the more you surrender, the freer you become. Because true elevation isn't about climbing higher. It's about letting go of everything that keeps you grounded in fear. It's about learning that comfort feels good, but calling feels right. There will be days when you question why everything feels so difficult. You'll wonder why God is allowing so much pressure, why He keeps putting you in situations that stretch you beyond what you think you can handle. But that's because he sees what you can. He knows there's more in you than you're showing. He knows your potential doesn't live inside safety. So he keeps pushing. He keeps pruning. He keeps reminding you that purpose is supposed to cost you something. As you keep walking, you'll start realizing that every uncomfortable step was necessary. The things you thought were setbacks were actually training sessions. The discomfort that once scared you becomes the proof of your evolution. You stop running from challenges and start embracing them because you understand what they produce. Growth, wisdom, discipline, clarity, all of it comes from the friction of leaving your comfort zone. You start to trust the stretch because you've seen what it creates. Eventually, what once felt impossible becomes natural. The faith you had to force becomes second nature. You stop clinging to safety and start moving with purpose. You learn to live in that balance between gratitude for where you've been and hunger for where you're going. And that's how God elevates you through the fire of discomfort, through the storms that force growth, through the situations that stretch your soul. Because only when you stop worshiping comfort can you fully walk in calling. Elevation doesn't always look like success at first. Sometimes it looks like loss, isolation, silence, or struggle. But every one of those seasons is a piece of the same divine design. God doesn't waste pain. Every hardship you faced, every person who left, every door that closed, none of it was random. It was refinement. It was training for the weight of the blessing waiting on the other side. When it felt like you were losing everything, you were really shedding what couldn't go with you. You were being prepared for the promise, not punished by the process. So if you're in that place right now, where things feel uncertain, where your faith is tested, where your circle is shrinking and your plans keep shifting, breathe. You're not being left behind, you're being lifted higher. God is rearranging your life for alignment, not your destruction. The elevation doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, piece by piece, moment by moment. Every time you choose faith over fear, purpose over comfort, and discipline over doubt, you rise a little higher. When you look back, you'll realize you were never losing. You were being positioned. Every sleepless night, every silent prayer, every unseen tear was building the strength you needed for the season you're stepping into. You didn't go through all of that just to go back to average. You went through it to walk in purpose, to lead, to inspire, to show others that faith can turn pressure into power. So keep going, keep trusting, keep showing up for your destiny even when it feels like nobody's watching. The same God who allowed the struggle is the one writing your victory. You're not at the end, you're in the middle of your becoming. Good luck on your journey, and may your path stay aligned with purpose, peace, and power. Every setback was set up, every delay was direction, and every loss was a lesson. Thank you for listening, for believing, and for daring to grow. Stay focused, stay faithful, and remember, your next level is already waiting for you to step into it.